And on the 8th day, God looked down on his planned paradise and said, I need a caretaker. So God made a farmer.
Howdy folks, I'm Darren. Welcome to 8th Day Chronicles here at Cross Timbers Farm. Glad to have you with us on this cloudy, overcast, cool day. It's only about 49, 50 degrees today, and we're midday. It rained some this morning, and according to the weather folks, this rain should be over for about 6 or 7 days, even though we're gonna have cooler temperatures. And I hope you can hear me because of the wind. I do have a microphone here, and I'm gonna keep turning to keep it out of the wind. But we're supposed to have sunshine the next 7 or 8 days, even though temperature's just about the same, 40s and 50s for highs. It's supposed to be nice. I was hoping to start changing fluids in the four-wheeler today and maybe get started on the tractor, but the ground is just really, really saturated and wet, and I don't want to lay on the ground underneath those machines and get all wet and muddy. When it's this temperature and then you get wet, you really get cold. So we're going to do some other things today. As you're fully aware, we have bought a new hay implement for the farm, an implement that I've wanted for a long time, and I feel like is needful on our farm. Most of the times, as far as our farm budget goes, we don't just go out and buy things we just want. Occasionally we do, but so is life. You do what your budget allows, and we've needed this implement, I feel like, because of the degree of slope on our pastures and our hay fields. This is needful. It will eliminate a dangerous implement that we've been using only because of the slope of our ground and the size of our tractor. This should remedy that. All right, we're going to start taking the plastic off of this crate, and it is a part, and we got to assemble it and get it out of the crate, and we're just going to assemble it right here, take it off piece by piece out of that crate, off the trailer. And by the way, our I don't know what you'd call it, a restored, because the framing all wasn't in bad shape. It's in really good shape. All we done was restored the floor and gave it a fresh coat of paint, greased the bearing wheels, the bearings in the axles. We did do that. I didn't film that before we went on our trip. We went to Carver Equipment and on another trip where we went on a small vacation, and we dropped our trailer off to Kyle Smith, the owner of Carver Equipment. And when we came back from our vacation, we made a detour, backed in, picked this thing up. He already had it loaded on our trailer, strapped down and ready to go. All we had to do was back up to it, hook it to our hitch on our GMC Sierra 2500 HD, and go. Of course, we visited with Kyle. That's always a plus, to visit with like-minded folks and small-scale farmers and things of that nature, and just talk in general about friend stuff. And but we got it home, and it's been raining almost ever since, and it's been sitting on our trailer for about a week. It's time to get that thing off the trailer. It weighs about 700 pounds. So it's not just detrimental, you know, a couple of tons of sitting on our trailer for a week at a time and just keeping those springs compressed. But it weighs about 700 pounds, which isn't bad. And you may think, goodness, what kind of implement you got that weighs 700 pounds that would be dangerous on your tractor? 700 pounds ain't that much. Well, when you get an implement hanging off the side of your tractor, and your tractor is a compact tractor and don't weigh that much to start with. It weighs decent for a compact tractor. We're talking a Kubota L Series 3200 four-wheel drive. So it don't weigh like a MX 6070 would, or a big Massey 4707 or something like that. We're talking a compact tractor, a smaller compact tractor, 32 horsepower. And when you're on a slope and you've got an implement hanging off that side and you're going along, you can just feel that implement really pulling that tractor, wanting to tip it over, and that's dangerous. And the drum mower is not so bad. You've probably figured out what this is. The drum mower's sitting on the ground, all the way on the ground, and all you're doing is just kind of pulling it. The drum mower isn't that bad on an incline or a slope. Our hay rake is. Our four-wheel inline grizzly hay rake. Once you get that rake hanging off to the side, and you can't lower it completely to the ground. Yeah, those tines need to scrub the ground going across, but you can't just let it sit down all of its weight on the ground. If you do, it will start pulling up sod, kicking dirt up into your windrows, and things of that nature. Undesirable. So, that's the only way you really can do it. And there's places on all three of our fields, especially the west field. If you watched our video on the disaster we had trying to bake hay in that west field, on our last cut where we lost all that hay, I talked about this, about how dangerous that four-wheel inline hay rake was. There was one point on that lower edge that I stopped and got off cut the tractor off, and soon as I stood up and my feet left the floorboard of that tractor and hit the ground, as soon as I was jumping off, I felt that tractor kind of go shake a little bit. Not, you know, it didn't boom down, but I felt it shake a little bit. And as soon as my feet hit the ground, I turned around and looked at the tractor, and the back tire on the downhill side, on the uphill side, I'm sorry, was about that far off the ground. It's just sitting there like this. I think I could have got around on the back side of that tractor and pushed and turned that tractor over. Soon as I saw that wheel off the ground, that tire, I immediately jumped back on because my weight was holding it there. And I'm not a big person. At that time, I weighed about 195 pounds. I've lost a bunch of weight. I'm gonna get into that in another video. Like I talked to Kyle about that small round bell accumulator prototype, and I told him it needed to go on a diet, and I said, so do I. I have been. And it has worked like you would not believe. I do not go hungry. I eat all I want to eat. And my blood work results at my doctor has been astonishing. Even my doctor was amazed at how much my blood pressure's dropped, how much my cholesterol levels has dropped, how my pre-diabetic condition is gone. It is amazing, and I'll get into that in a video coming up soon, but let's forget that. I jumped back on the tractor, and immediately that tire kind of went back, you know, it just go boom, but it went back down slowly to the ground. I started the tractor and backed it up and got it turned a little bit to where it wasn't sitting like this. I got it turned more like this, where the front end was downhill a little bit, and then was able to cut it off, set the parking brake, and get off of it. There's areas on our field, in our fields, that I feel like I could cut a little bit more hay than what I do, utilize our fields for hay production a little bit more than what I do, but I haven't been able to this point through this season, mainly because of that hay rake. I start to cut an area, and I sit and I look at it with the drum mower, and I'm thinking I ought to cut right down through there. And I'm like, I don't mind really to cut it that bad with the drum mower, but when I have to rake that out of there, that's gonna be dangerous, and I just go around. No hay is worth your life. Keep that in mind when you're on a tractor and you're on hills or slopes. If you start getting uncomfortable on the side of a hill, side hilling or going up and down, whatever. Side hilling's dangerous, but going up or down or whatever you're doing, and it starts getting iffy, back out of that. Put your tractor, cut your PTO off, whether you're bush hogging or raking hay or cutting hay, whatever. Cut that implement off, put that tractor in reverse, and back out of that as safely as you can and get turned and go away from it. Don't get on hills that could put you in a rollover position. Your family and your friends need you. Don't let that happen to you. And that is my main motivation for this. There's been a few times in that west field, especially on the lower south side, that I've had pucker factor, like uh-oh, and looked up and saw my front tire doing like this hand's the ground and here's the tire, seeing my tire doing like that. Just kind of bouncing, coming off the ground. And I've never seen the back tires come off until I stopped in that last cutting and I saw the back tire come up. Just because of the angle the tractor was sitting, it shifted the weight lightest area to that back tire. And our back tires are loaded with ballast, and we do have a ballast box, but you can't use that ballast box when you got an implement back there. You use the weight of that implement. Well, an implement hanging off the side that you're having to keep held up to a certain degree, and then you get on a hill like this. Not good. Our Grizzly 4-wheel inline hay rake has been fantastic. I really like an inline hay rake. I like an inline rake a lot better than I do a V-rake, because we are small scale hay equipment and small family farm, and we don't need a big rake, a big V-rake or something to rake huge windrows, because remember, we use a small mini round baler. And you have to make your windrows size appropriate for that baler. You take a great big V-rake, a 10-wheel V-rake, and you're going to end up making windrows that are suitable for a 4x5 round baler and not a 2x2 mini round baler. So you got to make your windrow size appropriate. And an inline rake does a great job at that. If you're considering a new hay rake, and your ground is flat and you have the appropriate size tractor to handle it, or even if it's, you know, like ours, slope, but you have an appropriate size, bigger tractor, heavier tractor to handle that, then this is a fantastic option. Very affordable, makes good windrows. The only thing I really don't much like about an inline rake or any kind of wheel rake like this, they're ground driven, and you have to let them touch the ground so much in order to rake that hay in. And I have found, if you want super clean hay, and most horse owners that buys our hay wants super clean hay, and I don't blame them. Nobody likes opening a bale of hay and a big dirt clod in it, or a big clod of sod, you know, with dirt still attached and roots and all that. An inline rake, that'll happen occasionally. Here's why. That rake is sitting on the ground, and you've got the weight up off of it just where the tines are just, you know, barely scrubbing the ground, just barely at the sod, where it won't dig in. But who's mowing hay or raking hay on a football field? There's going to be places like this in your field, things of that nature. You've got that rake adjusted, and the tines, you've got it swung out to the side, and the tines are set level. I've talked a lot about that, leveling that inline rake up where they're even, and there's even pressure on them. Okay, you're going along, one tine's up here in front of your back tires on your tractor, and the other one's well behind back there, and there's a couple in the middle. And you're going along raking hay, and you hit one of those places that do like this. All of a sudden, when the very front wheel, rake wheel, will dig into that a little bit, because it's doing like this. There's a little hump there, and that front wheel kind of digs in to the sod a little bit, kicks up some dirt into your windrow. When the two middle wheels go over it, they're pretty much about in line with your back tire. So they raise and go over it and rake it perfectly. That last wheel, once again, kind of digs into that hump a little bit, kicks a little bit of sod up. And it's just the nature of a rake like that. There's nothing you can really do about it. But if you're like the average haymaker, your fields, even if you have nice flat fields, there are going to be areas in your field that kind of do like that. None of them is architecturally straight as an arrow, flat as an arrow. And that's just the nature of it. This rotary rake we bought, it rides on wheels. The tractor's really holding, even though it's 3-point attached, the tractor itself is holding very little weight because it's sitting on wheels. And those rake tines are going around where it's catching the hay to throw it over into a windrow is between this tire and these tires, with not a whole lot of gap between them, and you're not going to kick up sod. I don't think, I've not used it yet, but I think you're going to end up with really clean hay in your windrows. No more sod and dirt being kicked into them. And I think it's going to really fluff up your windrows better for additional dry down. Now the rake we have bought, the rotary rake, is not a rake tedder combo. It is a dedicated hay rake. It's been designed and built specifically for only raking hay. So I think it's going to do a real good job. Let's go back and start unboxing it. Got a big Yeti full of hot coffee we made this morning in a percolator. We ground our own beans, and man, this is some good coffee. It's an Arabian coffee. Look at the steam coming off that coffee. Oh, that is so good. It's trying to rain again a little bit. It's clouded back up, and it's cold. I may have to stop in a minute and put my heavier coat on. But me and Oakley's out here, and back the trailer in here. This is a good place where we're going to put it together. And it's starting to drizzle rain again. And hopefully it's just a few passing clouds that's going to move on, because the rain's supposed to be over. They said a slight chance of some showers this evening. But I'm going to pull out my phone, and I'm going to tell you what we got here in this crate exactly. What we have purchased from Carver Equipment. This is a Fort Morra rotary rake made in Italy. And I'm going to give you the specs on it off my phone here, off Carver Equipment's website. The model is a FRM 280, and it's a 9-foot, 2-inch rotary rake. The minimum horsepower requirement is 20. Rakes don't take a lot of power to run. The rake weighs 700 pounds. And you may be thinking, well, Darren, that weighs probably a little more than your inline rake. Yes, it does. But this one's on wheels. It's going to sit on the ground, and it's not going to be depending totally on my tractor holding it up. That inline rake weighs about 600 pounds, if I'm not mistaken. I can look it up to make sure. Anyway, the FRM 280 rakes in 9 foot, 2 inches, 20 horsepower minimum, 700 pound weight. And the features is 8 rotor arms, 8. 3 tines per arm. And it is 3-point hitch connection. And it does come with its own PTO shaft and everything. So, and again, this is a Fort Morra / Farm Max. And there is assembly required. As you can see, it comes in a crate. And we're going to start putting this thing together. I'll post the specs of this rake Okay, this thing comes very well crated and covered in plastic, you can see, to protect it from the weather. But our rain should be over, and we are going to start uncrating. We got our rake uncrated, and it's still just sitting there. And here comes the rain again. We'll pick this back up tomorrow maybe, 'cause I think now they're saying some rain this evening. So we're gonna hurry and try to get a tarp over this, get it tarped out of the rain, and we'll pick back up tomorrow. It's supposed to be sun shining. We're back with you on day 2. We didn't get a lot done yesterday on this hay rake. It was supposed to have been clear, and it turned off raining some yesterday evening. And when I stopped filming, the rain went on about most of the evening, just a light rain. We've had a lot of rain the last few days, and I think now today it's really windy. I mean really windy. It's like 20-30 mile an hour, and cold. It's about 48, 49 degrees. And that 30 mile an hour wind's making it feel like it's about 20 in the middle of winter. And here it is, the end of October. I've got on heavy coats, and I've had on a toboggan for a little while, or what I just call a boggin. Had that on for a while, and a neck gaiter, good grief. It's almost November, but here I am already in my winter attire. We've been out here uncrating this Morra Rotary Rake. And I'll spin the camera around here in a minute and give you a show of the parts. We've got them all laid out, and I've printed off the owner's manual that Carver Equipment sent me through email, and the parts catalog, I've got that printed off. And in the crate was assembly instructions. That was a joke. From all the reviews and everything I've read about this hay rake, this is a fantastic hay rake, supposed to be. The reviews are excellent, and I've done a lot of research on rotary rakes. I'm that type of person. I just don't go out and buy something on a whim. I research it, and I make sure I'm buying what's going to benefit me the best, what I can use the best, and what's going to adapt to what I'm doing with it the best. And I think this rotary rake's going to be fantastic. Fort Morra has a really good reputation in small-scale hay equipment and larger agriculture equipment, especially hay equipment. They have a really good reputation, Italian-made, and a lot of the instructions in the assembly is kind of that broken English. You know how they write stuff, you know, it's just different. If you got any common sense, you can figure it out. But the instructions, assembly instructions, leave something to be desired. If you have never put anything like this together and you have no farm sense, and pardon if I'm maybe being a little crude there, but just like the drum mower and everything else you buy that comes crated like this, directly from the manufacturer overseas, in this case Italy, you're going to have to put it together. And the instructions they send with it, you might as well just, you know, use them for fire starter. They're about, well, they might have a little value, but not a whole lot. So you have to just rely on farm sense. Look at things and figure out how it goes. And if you're stumped with something, pull up pictures of it. I've got on Carver's website and pulled up pictures of this rake assembled and working. I've watched some videos on YouTube of other Fort Morra rotary rake owners that's done some videos on them and looked at the machine, how it's put together, and usually you can figure it out from there. So I think I've got some of it figured out, and we're going to get started putting this together. I've got all my parts laid out. As you can see, here is the 3-point, And here's the main body of the rake. And here is the top piece. I don't know what you'd call it. Okay. And that's got to be mounted first. That's what we're getting ready to do. I've got it stood up, and I've got over here on the table, I've got all the rake arms, the PTO guards, the wheels, the safety bars, you know, the jack stand, all kind of things that go just about everywhere. So we're going to get started putting this thing together. We've started our assembly, and because of my research going through all this rake and searching for some better videos on assembly and not finding any, we're going to go through a step-by-step on assembling this rake. So if anyone in the future buys a Fort Morra RM280 rotary rake, you'll hopefully find this video and see how we done it, step-by-step instructions on what goes where. Okay, after we got it unpacked and everything, the first step we did was assemble the main arm that goes across the top of the rotary rake, and I'm going to show you this. This main arm that goes across, okay, and there's the hub assembly. This main arm attaches right here. 4 bolts, 1, 2, 3, 4. You have to take these bolts out. The instructions say to take 1, 2, and 3. Leave this one. Take the other 3 out. Sit your arm down on there, and this arm is heavy. You're probably going to have somebody to hold it for you, or I prop some wood blocks right there to get my spacing right. Sit it back down on, loosely attach this one, just hand tight, maybe not even hand tight, just, you know, in there 3/4 of the way. Then remove this one and rotate the arm down, and then tighten all 4 of them back up. That's how you install that top arm. Okay, it's going to hold your skirt, it's going to hold all your guards, it's going to hold your arms when not in use. A very important part of it. And they attach right there. Those bolts are already in that main hub. You just have to take 3 of them out, put the arm, this big arm, heavy arm on. I don't know exactly what it's called, but you put this big heavy arm on, then take the 4th one out and rotate it on over, put it in, and then put your other 2 in, and then torque them all down. Okay, we're back. We've got our 3-point attachment on, and it's pretty simple. We just got our rake up on a bucket to get it up off the trailer floor, and then we attached our 3-point attachment, the part that hooks to your lower and top link. And just fair warning, the bolts that go in that, they're in a channel. The front 2, there's 6 bolts, and the front 2 on each side's not that bad. The back one is bad. It's way back in a crack, and because of that, it's inside like a channel, and you can't see if they're getting loose. If you're using this thing out in the field and you've been using it for hours, with the bolts turned with the nut on the inside, if one of them started working loose, you'd never know it. So I turned them where I can always see if those nuts are loose or are missing, and I'm gonna show you. Okay, right here, pretty simple. This channel here goes up in this yoke right here. Okay, and it attaches with 3 bolts on each side. All right, there's 3 on each side for a total of 6. You can see them there. Okay, normally, if I'm putting something like this together, I would put these on the inside and the bolt head out here. But because of it's in such a channel that you can't see them way up in there? I mean, they're way up in there. the back one is, if those things started coming loose, you'd never know it. So I turned them with the nut to the outside where you can just glance and you can see how much thread's sticking through those nuts to know if those things are coming loose. And they are lock nuts, so they should stay, but that way I can keep an eye on them. Okay, next thing we're gonna do is attach what they call a stretch bar. I would just call that a stabilizer bar. It's a bar right here, and it's gonna go right in that slot there and come up and hook right in there in those holes right below our top link attachment. All right, let's get that on. Okay, we have the 3-point hooked up. I flipped around the category 1 and 2s because my tractor is a category 1 and it has both. So I flipped it to the category 1, pretty simple to do. The only problem I've had putting this whole thing together, besides those bolts, it's up in that channel so tight that, you know, it's doable, but you gotta, I actually put a little electrical tape on the backside of a wrench and a boxed in wrench and put the bolt in it and stuck it up in there and then through the hole. And it worked pretty good. What they call the stretch bar in the instructions, the assembly manual, I would just call it a stabilizer bar. The back holes are not lining up. Let me show you. See that? They're about a ½ inch off. Well, maybe not a half. They're a ½ inch off. And I'm thinking, if I go ahead and hook the tractor to it, I've loosened those bolts in that channel. They're still in there, but I've just loosened them. They're not as snug now. And I think if I go ahead and pick this thing up by the 3-point, this will pull, because here's the heavy part of the whole rake. And it'll allow this to kind of come back a little bit, and I can get those bolts in. The bolts are just laying there. So I'm gonna hook the trailer back up to the truck and pull forward, because where I've got the trailer parked, I can't get my tractor in here. So I'm gonna have to hook the trailer back to the truck and pull up a little ways so I can get the tractor in here and get the 3-point links attached and get the thing attached to my 3-point and pick it up a little bit. I need to go ahead and get it off the trailer anyway, because the next step is lifting it to put the wheels on. So that needs done anyway. And I think at that point, that stabilizer bar, the hub where the basket, where the rake tines go and the rake arms, I think will come down a little bit and pull back, and then those bolts will go in. Yet to be seen. Okay, it's getting late in the evening and it's windy and cold, and my hands are numb. But we got everything put together except that top, what they call the stretch bar in the assembly manual, but it's a stabilizer bar. The back holes are not lining up, and I was getting ready to get the tractor out and lift it up, and it's getting late in the evening. I've still got some chores to do to take care of our poultry and things of that nature before dark, and we're about 20 minutes before dark, so we're giving this a break for the next day or two. I've got plans tomorrow, won't be able to work on it, and then well, really for the next 2 days. We'll pick back up in about 3 days and hook it to the tractor, and then I think the stabilizer bar hopefully will fit at that point. But other than that, it's went real smooth. Everything's went together good, and I think that will, if we can get it picked up and have the weight hanging off of it to pull that back a little bit, and those bolts will go right in. I hope. We'll be back with you.